Live.
Namaskar. Bharat has a population of over 130 crore, of which 65% are youth, making it the country with the largest youth population in the world. With this fact in context, the most crucial part is to channelize this youth power in the right direction, Disha, for the rejuvenation of our nation, Bharat. And this mission has been taken up by Disha Bharat, an NGO that has been conducting a variety of events on value education since the year 2005. What sets apart the events conducted by Disha Bharat is its completely activity-based modules with a blend of fun and learning. All the programs that Disha Bharat conducts are intended towards the empowerment of youth, towards empowering the nation through value-based initiatives. Namaskar, this is Smriti Khare, a volunteer of Disha Bharat, an NGO, and today I welcome you all to one such event conceptualized to rekindle the virtue of patriotism among the youth of Bharat. Well, let me ask you a question. Ever heard about the Ahom dynasty that reigned parts of India for about 6 centuries? The only Indian kingdom to have never succumbed to the oppression of the Mughal Empire, or the diverse contributions of the largest tea producer of the world? Maybe very few of us would have heard about it or clearly know things about these states. Blame it on the imperialist education, the propaganda narratives, or our own negligence in documenting the rich Indian heritage. The cultural diversity and significance of Northeast India hasn't found its due place in popular discourse. As sad as it is the need of the hour today to get united and understand the contributions and give its credit to these 7 states. To enlighten us on the topic, Northeast India, understanding a great diversity, historical, socio-cultural significance, we have with us today Dr. Phirmi Bodo. Good evening, ma'am. Dr. Bodo is currently an assistant professor at Center for the Study of Social Systems, School of Social Sciences, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Before joining the JNU, she worked as an assistant professor, sociology department in Manohari Devi Kanoi Girls College in Assam for 6 years. She has done research on different communities in Northeast of India on different issues. She is also associated with the Center of Northeast Studies. Dr. Bodo is a young established scholar and holds the position of National General Secretary at Virat Hindustan Sangam. She is a key speaker and has addressed on the topics like unsung freedom fighters from Northeast India in various platforms. Also, she raised the issues and challenges faced by Northeast India during COVID. Warm greetings, ma'am, and welcome. May I request Dr. Bodo to take over the session and enlighten us on the current topic.
Namaste, Smriti ji. I hope my voice is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. At the outset, I would like to thank the Disha Bharati for giving me a platform where I can share my views, what you call a long journey of this research, especially in the northeastern part of India. And this region is not only my academia endeavor to bring out the facts and figure, but also something which is very close to my heart, maybe partially because I belong to that region. And second is that somewhere I feel that I have some responsibility to bring out some unsung stories about unsung heroes, or you can say facts which has been neglected or sidelined for various reasons. I really want to thank the organizer for giving me this platform, because we, although we have voices, but for a very long time, we haven't had any kind of platform to speak out. And fortunate enough for me, I would say, that it has given me, through this platform, it has given me a voice, and to at least understand and give my understanding, I would say, to have a very broad understanding about the northeast part of India. Well, I would like to begin with the quote. It says that a person without the knowledge of their past history, or I would say correct history, origin and culture, is like a tree without roots. And if a tree without roots, we know it cannot exist, it perishes with times. And whenever we talk about the India as a civilization, we know that it's always been a land of wisdom and knowledge. But unfortunately, all this rich knowledge are being plundered by various means for different regions brutally, by foreign invasions, which actually led to the weakening of the foundation of these great ancient knowledge traditions. And what I always say during my talk, that Sri Aurobindo says the diminution of power of thought is the spread of ignorance. It's the spread of ignorance in the birthplace of knowledge. We have lost the power of thought and shrink into dependency of borrowed knowledge of outsiders, and outsiders who plundered the roots of indigenous knowledge system for various factors, economical or political, especially in northeastern part of India, which is my focus today. It has been remaining a more challenging region in this context. And for a very long time, it has been the site of separatist movement, and the alienation factor mainly is one of the most disturbing elements. The British policy of institutionalized segregation of the hill snapped the centuries-old social, cultural, and commercial ties that existence between the people of the plains and the hills. Lots of myth was propagated, First Nations was built up by many then British historians, that there was a social, cultural, and historical disconnectedness of Northeast India with the rest. And with the rest of India, and they are branded as a semi-naked or naked people living in the hills and jungles with no social connectedness with the people of plains, and remain excluded from other regions. So such kind of false and colonial narratives were established even in academia, which leads to basically isolation and exclusion of this region. And all of you must know that how northeastern regions stereotypically also branded as barbaric, nomads, or primitive, headhunters, wild savages, and the list are go. I mean, it's gone. I mean, list is endless, and they are tagged as violent people who feel proud in beheading head of people and casting northeastern community as if they were always in a constant war with the neighboring regions. Even unfortunately or sadly, native scholars try to further develop the same colonial narratives that they had no civilizations of their own. And it was being told that they had no knowledge about urban life and no sense of knowledge and technology. And therefore, they made to believe that the colonial interventions or foreign intervention, how they should be considered to be significant changes in enlistment and good for the people. So likewise, numbers of myths and conspiracies were constructed to show that people living in hills and forests has their own way of living, their own dharma, and have a very backward traditions and faith. They are in fact the demon worshippers. So what happened after this kind of propagations, that it has developed a sense of embarrassment or a hatred towards their own traditions and ancestor for a very long time. And such kind of feeling was developed. Why? Because to establish gratitude towards foreign culture, land, and how you can develop an inferiority complex for oneself and a feeling of alienation to our own understanding about the worldview. However, if you go by the fact or the reality, if you explore that region, one can see that how there has always been a cultural oneness. I'm not talking about a modern political map, but that culture oneness right from Iran to Indonesia. So Northeast was never an excluded part of these greater civilizations, and it was extended throughout Northeastern India. And there was a similarity between, you can find a connectedness, commonness between life philosophy between hills and valley people. Maybe they express in a different way because of, as you said, by the title, in the title itself, it says the diversity. So those diversities are not uniqueness or differences, but you will find the unitedness among this diversity. So that is the beauty or the uniqueness of this civilization, is that in spite of such a diversity, you will find a cultural connectedness, emotional connectedness, somewhere you can link it. And philosophy of Northeastern region, values and faith always remains very Sanatani in nature and very rooted, and very close to nature. And in fact, the whole idea that Northeastern India was peripheral to the Indian civilization and culture is based on very inadequate data and unfounded suppositions. But very few, little effort has been done so far to explore that the northeastern Indian land route through which elements of Indian civilization were exported to the far Southeast Asia. I would like to bring here that Trakyu inscription of King Prakasdhara of Champa, AD 653 to 679, mentions the erections of an image of Valmiki in the southern part of the present-day Vietnam. So it shows that how Indian traveling from northeastern land route carried the eastern versions of the epic story to the countries of Indochina, which cannot be dismissed together. And there are lots of legends related to our epic, which traveled through northeastern land route, was considerably transformed into its new home of adoptions and returned to northeastern states. By the 18th century, with the Indo-Chinese populations trekking down along the Brahmaputra Valley, or you can Mizo Hills. Earlier, it was known as the Lushai Hills. And northeastern culture of India has always been treated and looked upon as a unique entity by many local historians or native historians who are already crippled by the crooked power of colonialism with no connections with the rest of India and Indian civilization per se. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, no concrete work has been done to supersede that hegemonic power, even after reaching at the heights of informations and knowledge society. In fact, there is an ample of evidences in the traditions and culture of Northeast culture to prove that how those through stories, how culturally we are connected. Like if you look, have a close look at the Mizo version, has disclosed that most of the Mizo folktale has a presence of the epic. The Karbis of northeastern India, the community, which is basically found in Assam, has a folk versions of the epic, which is popularly known as Sabin Alun. The traditions of song and music in Karbi society started with Sabin Alun, and it is literally meaning Sabin song, which is composed by Hemfu, the supreme creator akin to the Lord Vishnu. Even in Assam, also 14 different forms of Kamrup or Assamese are there, and Ramayana are so far collected, and these are written in different periods by different writers. And it is one of the source of the old Assamese language and literature, which is also known as a Kamrupi language, is very old form and nature. In Tripura, if you visit the hills and deep forest and Chittagong Hills trek, the old people often found reading the epics. And actually the epics have been found themselves to be perennial sources of inspirations and an ocean of wisdom from which a galaxy of folktales, proverbs, riddles, poems, songs, drama, dances, dialogue, and visual arts have been composed by people. Manipuri literature, which has a rich old heritage from about 10th century AD, has the Manipuri Ramayana with all 7 cantos. King Garbinwaj was entrusted one Pandit Angom Gopi, or you can say Shema Singh Moiramba, with his assistants to compose this epic with the regional complexion and the large dose of the cultural soil of Manipur, and it's become a national epic of the Manipuris. Colonial powers, however, even yes, and one more thing in Khasi is also the word that you can find that kind of connectedness if you go by their legends, which exist even their everyday life. And colonial power, however, also tried to construct a kind of false theory of migrations and attempted to make believe that people of Northeast region came from other parts of the country, just like colonizers, and it made to believe that They came from a very far China, and and the rest, and the list, and again, it has a very long list. But as I said, that there are lots of stereotype mindset also developed when it comes to the society of Northeastern people or Northeastern community. However, if you go by all the archaeological evidences, if you go even by the historical accounts, the region always had a very progressive civilization. There was a cordial relationship between the people of hills and valleys. There was a center for trade relations and cultural exchange. And that exchange or that trade relations can only happen when you able to develop a very progressive and a very broad mindset, or if you want can able to develop a civilized society. It has a very skilled society. They had the progressive industrial based society. They were involved in trading in industrial based products, like I can say different metal products, spices, war equipments, foods, etc. And in addition to that, this entrepreneur society was proficient also in doing businesses. They used to trade all these materials, not with the hills and valley people, but it was extended to far off countries like China. As I was talking about progressive civilization, I would like to bring one example. I would like to mention about one ancient city that was developed on the banks of the Dhansiti River, which is called Dimapur. It is a brick city. If you also search it on Google, or if you ever get a chance to visit Assam, I really request you from this platform to have once make a visit to that, which was once the seat of a powerful kingdom. Earlier, during my introductions, you have heard about an Ahom kingdom, which actually ruled for 600 years. But before Ahom kingdoms, there's another Kachari kingdoms, which in fact not more than, although we are also challenged by very written documents, but many historians now also claim that Kachari kingdom maybe probably ruled for almost 1,000 years. And Dimapur was once the seat of this powerful kingdom, whose legacy is often forgotten today. And if you want to see this, or would like to visit the city, which is presently the cosmopolitan and commercial heart of Nagaland, present Nagaland today, was established by the Kachari people, the Dimasa Kachari people, and ruled parts of the Brahmaputra Valley. As per the written records, at least the 13th century, the time of the earliest available written records, although Dimasa rule in Dimapur can go back as far as the 10th centuries. And the Kacharis have been described as the original autochthons of Assam. And S.K. Bhuya, the renowned Assamese historians in Kachari Buranji, writes that they built political and administrative units, vestiges of which have lingered till this day. So these evidences has proof, or can in fact give you the glimpse of a progressive civilization. It is also an agriculture-based society. Agricultural traditions was very dominant and progressive in every community of Northeastern community, irrespective of time. And they always have a very innovative ideas regarding an agriculture activity. And they are very proficient in domesticating animals and preserving seeds. And there has always been a harmonious relationship between the peoples and hills and valley in respect of trading. They had a cordial trading relations in I have mentioned some of the facts before. Here I would like to add more, like medicine, silk, cotton, jewelry, utensil, etc. And for this purpose, they even constructed and developed a safe trade routes. In spite of geographical challenges, they're able to establish a convenient route for smooth functioning of trading relationship, which had a long continuous trading and cultural relationship. These trade routes connected till the present Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, Nepal, Tibet, China, and Bhutan. So this trading relationship also give you the deep-rooted knowledge system of building a relationship with the neighboring regions. And then although I have said about Ahom kingdom and Kachari kingdom, but most people maybe heard about these kingdoms. But there are more ancient kingdoms existing in this region, which was never been place in the quote-unquote mainstream history. And there are ruins and archaeological evidences of those kingdom coins, chronicles, stone inscriptions, weapon, etc. are still somewhere available. A number of monuments, temples, statues are discovered during excavations, and all these evidences give a glimpse of a very progressive and very cordial society, administrative system and military system. So you can understand the level of knowledge or on technology and on administrations and on military system gives how the people of Northeast India were very rich in handling vast dynasties or ruling vast kingdoms. And all these kingdoms not only have a cordial relations with within, but also have the matrimonial relationship with the rest of India and the other kingdoms of Myanmar. So here I would like to bring some of the, just for your informations only, although because of a limited time, I might not able to give in details, but I like just to make you aware that prior to the rule of Ahom, as I talk about the Kachari kingdom, there was a Varman kingdom, Pal dynasty, Bhuya chieftains, Chutia kingdom, Ken kingdoms. So these are the 4 kingdoms, yes, and the Kachari kingdoms were very significant in terms of geostrategy. And apart from all this kingdom, there were evidences of Tripura kingdoms. They believed themselves as descendants of Rama. And in fact, the Kanchan Prabha Maharani Tripura was the princess of Panna of Madhya Pradesh. Manipuri kingdoms, they had the relationship with the kings of Tripura, Ahom, Kachari, Shans of Myanmar, Tiva kingdoms, Karvi kingdom, Jaintia, and some small 25 states within the Meghalaya, Lusha and Naga Hills also had a, their own kingdom system. And this entire kingdom had a constant fight with the Britishers or with the other foreign invasions to protect their traditions and for their freedom. And as I said, the cordial relationship between hills and valley people, which was maintained between hills and valley through fairs and festival. There's a system called Mangai system and Khat system are the example to prove that cordial relationship between hills and valley people. Tarai region was the central place for such activities in ancient time. And so there is not only a matrimonial, or there is not only a political, but also royal relations, culture, agriculture, trade and employed, and as well as military relationship. But we mostly teach with the attitude of separatedness, which was passed down to, unfortunately, today's learned scholars too. And the region was viewed as an isolated frontier with no connections to the cultural continuum of India for a very long time. And I believe it is a high time we become the voice for many such unrecognized facts from the past and begin to accord the civilizations of the Northeast their place in the history of India. And one thing that I would like to mention apart from this, that there was not only a culture, but in fact, a geographical continuum along with the cultural continuum. Geographically, this region was never an excluded and present Siliguri corridor, which is also known as a chicken neck to northeastern part of India. If you have visited, you must be aware about that. Is just 75 years old. But before the partitions of India, or before that, during pre-colonial period, the colonial period, this region was connected by different other routes. The Naga Hills, before the birth of Nagaland, have always lived a very, lived in a very symbiotic relationship with the plains of Brahmaputra Valley until 1873, when the British completely snapped ties between the two by bringing and Bengal Eastern frontier regulation, and each village of present Nagaland was a self-sufficient unit in terms of its economy, social, cultural, and governance, with their own laws and customary institutions to enforce the laws. And there are claims of reliable archaeological evidences also. In addition, I would like to also add that there are many historical sites present which are yet to excavate more and need to have more extensive research. And some of the facts you can find in Arunachal Pradesh, those archaeological sites in Assam, Nagaland, Manipur, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram. So there are numerous archaeological sites with these more excavations to give or to break those false narrations that how these regions were have no connectedness or no relationship with the rest of India, and how it's always being isolated or still secluded part. While saying all these things, there was also another fact that I would like to bring here is about the how people of Northeast India were constantly fighting against this colonial hegemony, colonial power, because they were never ready to bow down, or they were never ready to accept that slavery mindset. And I would like to draw here that in 1757, after the Battle of Plassey won over Bengal, British started to stabilize their dominations over Northeastern India, and they planned different political and military strategy to capture the natural resources of the region, and they established the colonial power of the regions by dominating their lands and attack their culture by convergence. And through Charter Act of 1813 and Education Act of 1835, they even tried to destroy the ancient roots of education, culture, and traditions of that regions. People of this region even protested against Britishers to fight against them for this brutality, and I believe that now it's a high time that people should written about it in history and applauding about those warriors who fight against Britishers for freedom and cultural preservations. Millions of heroes, warriors came out to fight against this imperialism, or I can say tyrannical rule of British. To give their lives to break the shackles of oppression. Fight for free India was a strong and significant in Northeastern like the rest of India. And even in the, while talking about the freedom movement or the fight against the hegemonic power, I can talk about the heroes. Names are like Bir Tigendrajit Singh, Rani Gaindenlu, Haipao Jadunang, Yuti Singh, because for them, absolute freedom was to embrace slavery, and there is to bring into light one names of such warriors. And through this, we might somewhere can able to pay tribute to these numerous heroes of Northeastern India who had struggled to get independence for the country from this imperialist rule, and also need to acknowledge their struggle to unfold their contributions in this struggle, so as to make our homage probably to our fighters. However, it is an irony that we Indians are taught more about the invaders, we talk more about the villains, or we talk more about the destroyer of our country rather than our heroes or our glorified facts, which actually bring out the proudness within us. Those heroes like name I can say just for informations that Veer Sambudan Ponglo, one such name, who was a pioneer in creative movement against the British and fought relentlessly for the cause of his own soil or motherland. He was one such a mighty figure from Assam who inspired many youth of his community to join his army to wage war against the hegemonic rule of British. And it is an attempt to give a true understanding of such courageous and brave warrior who belong to, again, Dimasa Kachari community, and to establish the fact that how the ethnic communities of Northeast unanimously participated in this national freedom movement. Jaya Thausen, another Belarus freedom fighter who also were on the way to join the Azad Hind Fauj, which was led by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. While having encountered with the British, she fought valiantly and in fact injured many of the Britishers, but unfortunately was martyred in that battle. Along with her, she in fact formed organizations, and along with her there were other young patriots, including Arjun Langthasa and Jyoti Dao Khemprai. And then how can I not mention about the Gaidinlu, who famously known as the Rani Gaidinlu ji, who joined the struggle against the British at a very young age of 13. along with her cousin. And her journey as a revolutionary began in 1927, who actually led the Heraka movement, a movement for the revival of Naga indigenous belief system. And at the age of 70, she led the movement against the British, which resulted, unfortunately, 14 years long imprisonment. But that imprisonment also could not stop her. And she, in fact, valiantly led many guerrilla forces to fight against the British and become a headache, in fact, for the British forces. And in her acknowledgement and her struggle against the British, even she was then Prime Minister of India, called her the daughter of the hills, or gave her the title Rani, which we can say is a queen. That Tira Singh is one of the such celebrated freedom fighter to have risen out of the Khasi Hills. If you see that, visit the Meghalaya, you will find the Tira Singh cave, which is an important memorial of this vivid, brutal, and often ignored chapter of Indian history, who belonged to the faction of Khasi leader who did not support the growing influence of the British in that eastern frontier. And the Anglo-Khasi War was fought, and Tirat and his band of faithful followers used guerrilla tactics to evade and strike the brutal colonial forces, a battle between guns on one side and swords and arrows on the other side. You can retrace the event of this war with a trip to the Tirat Memorial Moirang, and most notably a cave system where the great warrior Spen eluded the British officers and their loyal Indian agents who hunted him. His mastery of guerrilla warfare tactics, along with the ability to organize his Khasi warriors, played a great role in helping him take on the British. He was an inspirational leader who was fully aware of the necessity of gathering intelligence to facilitate decision making. He was also an adept or very skilled organizer. So the Anglo-Khasi War was a part of the independent struggle between the Khasi people and the British Empire. Then there is a very famous expedition called the Vijay Mishmi expedition, which is also, I can say, gives us the another brutality, how this community bravely fought the British. And this war can also talk about the brutality of the British, how they had defended their land and how they died fighting for it. Another patriot from Arunachal Pradesh, Mode Riba, then led Matmur Jamua, a native of Arunachal Pradesh itself, was a true patriot. And his fight against the British Army led to the famous Anglo-Abor, and eventually led Matmur Jammu along with his friends were given life imprisonment and sent to Kalabani at Andaman and Nicobar Island, and unfortunately never returned even after we achieved independence. So his fought against the slavery policy of the Britishers also give a very inspirational or you can say motivations to keep grounded, or how to fight for your own land, for their own identity, or for your own existence, which is very deep-rooted in this Indian civilizations. Then also there is a very famous war called Anglo-Manipur War in 1891, where I should also mention about the Pauna Brajabushi, who how actually he also fought very courageous against the British. And in fact, before he was killed, he was given a choice. A Manipuri British Army officer asked him to switch sides and join the British Army. The British, in fact, insisted that he could switch sides in exchange for a plum post. However, he reportedly replied that that was more welcome than treason. And Pauna took off his cloth wrapped around his headgear and asked the British officer to behead him. So such kind of courageous, such kind of various stories always give a kind of connectedness, then how people of these regions were always being rooted in a freedom loving, and they have a self-sufficient system, self-sufficient village system, administrative system, and which has always made the people of these regions proud. And one should talk about such kind of stories to give a kind of pride within themselves, so that we can get rid of all those inferiority complex which has been continuously floating in our mind somewhere because of our this colonial hegemonic system even now. So such kind of names has to be brought out in our through our readings, through our academia, through our discussions. And one thing I would also would like to bring about a significant events that happens in fact in Assam, which is called a very inspiration for the peasant movement in Assam, making the beginning of the first organized peasant movement, the Phulakuri uprising, which shook the British administrations in Assam, in fact, for the first time. And to control it, they killed almost 39 pigeons and hacked many of the leaders. So this first pigeon movement of Assam inspired many more movements by the pigeon itself against the British tyranny. There are other more important freedom fighters from the Northeast who valiantly took on the British, who have not been, however, could not mention in details, like Kushal Kumar, Shubir, Pasalta, Pungacher, Trilochan, Pokrel, Bhogeshwari, Krishnanas Sharma. So these are the names that have made into the annals of, could not able to make into the mainstream history, and it's time that they should receive national attention too, like in other parts of the country. The freedom fighters from a northeastern state shed their blood and give up their lives and suffered atrocities in the hands of this tyrannical British rule. And this policy of divide and rule, which was created by colonial power, had created an unrest among many rulers and chiefs of northeastern part of India. And there are many more such great freedom fighters who were born into this region, who are born in these regions, but there are many now names which got lost over the years. Some get spotlight while some stay in the dark and contribute just as much as the others. So it's just through this talk, it's just an attempt to pay a tribute to such patriotic warriors. And I believe that the chief cause of the weakness of India, or the chief cause of or the reasons behind the becoming weak in our root, is not the subjections or nor poverty, nor the lack of spirituality or ethics, but the declines of thought power. As I said in my beginning, is the growth of ignorance about our motherland, about our indigenous knowledge system, inability or unwillingness to think, thought incapacity or thought phobia. The modern world, as we know, is the age of the victory of knowledge. Whoever thinks most, seeks most, labor most, can fathom and learn the truth of the world and get so much more energy, or in, if I say from our native language, the Shakti. If you look at Europe, a vast sea of thought and the play of a huge and fast moving and yet disciplined force. The whole Shakti or the energy of Europe is in that. And in the strength of that energy, it has been swallowing up the entire world. You can see here. In Europe, they want the deep thought, the deep word. That even an ordinary laborer or artisan thing wants to know, is not satisfied with surface things, but want to go behind. But there's still this difference. And there is a fatal limitation in the strength and thought of Europe. When it comes to into the spiritual field, its thought power can no longer move ahead. There is a stillness. There Europe sees everything as riddle, nebulous, metaphysics, yogic hallucination. They rub their eyes as in smoke and can see nothing clear. We already have that spiritual sense. And we owe it to our forefathers, our ancestors. Whoever has that sense has at his disposal such knowledge and such energy or shakti as with one breath might blow away all the huge power of Europe, like a blade of brass. But to get to get the strength or to get the energy, one must be believer, or one must be exposed to the fact. One must be exposed to the real history, the fact. And we are worshippers of the easy way, the shortcut. Our forefathers, our ancestors dive into a sea of vast thought and gain a vast knowledge and establish a mighty civilizations. But somewhere we have not able to we are not able to have this vast knowledge and establish the oldest civilization. Somewhere some remnants are still there, and I think with having our by using our own lenses, by using our own eyes to understand our own society, to understand or to value those rich traditions, I think we can bring back our the past glory. We can bring our ancient knowledge system, and this is the only way out to make your own strong point, to make your own strong voices in this such a knowledge society or in globally. So with this, I would like to thank the organizer again. I hope that I can able to give you some insight into the by bringing out some of the facts and figures, like how the history of northeastern region, the people who courageously fought for the any tyrannical rule, gives you a kind of information, the correct understanding. Somewhere I think the fact and figure itself is not all sufficient, but at the same time we should have a correct narrative to see our own society without having any biasness or without having any kind of complexity. I think we can do a bit justice to our forefathers who have gifted us such a tremendous and excellent knowledge system, which is very pro nature, which is very rooted. So thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bodo. Honestly, the volume of facts that you brought forward today is in a sense mind-blowing, from the sense that we have, we have probably missed out on such a rich, culturally based area altogether. But also pains me from the point of view that somehow such a rich culture has been neglected out in the open, right? So I have one question for you, if you may.
Yes,
so one thing is that the popular media, at least these days, is giving us, letting us know about certain indigenous culture and folk traditions and other things. That's why I think some of us at least know a little about the Northeast India. But what do you think is the effect of the colonial rule over the Northeast earlier, and now the globalization on the folk traditions currently?
Due to globalizations, I'm talking about, but see, you have to understand, like with the changes, with the transitions that you have seen now, if you visit, I mean, there is now a kind of growing or a kind of tendency among the Northeastern communities, or even there are many, some few scholars who have somewhere have this feeling that we have been somewhere not done justice to our own culture, or haven't done a great works for our own culture or for our own traditions. Yes, now we can see, now talk about the indigenous system, as you have said, through media. But then again, there is another, I find, that is my observations, I would like to share here, is that by bringing out this indigenous or culture or through media, somewhere they have missing that continuity, that connectedness. Although now we talk about the indigenous, but that cultural flow or that geographical flow, that or the continuity that I was talking about, somewhere it has been missing out. And this is where the most challenging part, I believe. But I have already told you about the archaeological evidences and those folk song, folk traditions, which actually give us or proof that there is a connectedness somewhere. Although yes, we do talk about the indigenous system, although we talk about the folk traditions, but we also have to see that how these traditions, how this culture are having a very what you call, I would say, the bridge. And there is always being a bridge, there is always being a flow. It's like a river. Uh, uh, it has a many streams, but at the end, it has one name. So similarly, I would like to say in that way. Yeah.
Yes, very well answered, ma'am. Honestly, one thing that hurts me the most, if I were to be frank with you, is the fact that a representation from Northeast India has had to sit in front of the audience and prove their existence from the beginning till now. Okay, that's the amount of negligence or ignorance, complete ignorance towards the Northeast India. Well, this leads me to another question, ma'am, about the youth migration from the Northeast India towards, say, the southern states of India, or the northern ones, for that matter. Why do you think there is such amount of migration, and what plans or reactions of the locals, are either affecting it or increasing the migrations, would you say?
Well, in terms of migrations of youth, even you can talk about me that as an example, like coming from Assam to here, establish yourself. See, it's a very natural phenomena. Migration is not something which has happened in a modern society or because of the globalization. It's been always there. If you go by the history, it's not something new. And in fact, I would see everything has its pros and cons, and everything has black and white. I mean, but then we have to also think about the middle part, the gray shades of that. Through these migrations, or how youth are coming out from the northeastern part of India, it at least give a kind of understanding about our own culture to the rest of the world. So it is, you can see it as an opportunity, or you can see it as a way to expose to the world, because from a very long time, this region, as I said, is always being isolated, secluded, because of the many reasons, political or economic. And that has somewhere led us to remain uh, 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 unknown, or maybe ignorant to some extent about the rest of the world, or how the world operates. So that has actually break because of these globalizations. But then again, it has some challenges because of this massive flow of informations. Now you don't know which information to carry with yourself and which informations you have to avoid. But then again, if you know, as I said at the beginning, if you know your correct history, if you know, have that strength within yourself, that only happens if you know your correct history. So I think we will not do injustice to our present system or to our forefathers, or the very discussion itself which we were doing it right now. Yeah.
Very well said, ma'am. And the fact that you mentioned about the immigration actually is an opportunity for us to open up as much as an exposure that is required for the Northeasterns. I think so much is the requirement of an exposure to the rest of India for Northeast. We need to know about that region. And that's, in a way, a good opportunity for us to get insights into your culture. I think this would be the last question, considering the time constraint. What would be your message to young teachers and young college-going or other students at this occasion of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav?
Well, I don't know how to give, whether you call it a message or an appeal, I would say, rather, to all my friends, my students, or if they are watching it, or I would say to my colleagues, those who are or have this, maybe the future scholars. All I have to say is that please use your own lenses without having any biasness, and should not look society, or should not look our world or culture in just a black and white shades or color. It has it has its own middle way of understanding it. And especially to the northeastern region, people of the northeastern region, I would say that we now are living in such a I think where we are now having such a opportunity through internet, through this social media, that now we can express our voices. We have this weapon. And in fact, today's young are such a fortunate enough. We never had this mobiles or social media when we were student or where we were studying at that point of time. But today's youth are such a fortunate enough to have this, I would say, weapon, a very non-violent weapon through which you can at least bring out, you get a platform to voicing out their own thoughts or opinion, you share your opinions. So please use it very wisely, and please do not have a biasness whenever you read or talk and experience the outsider's view, because at the end, if you do that, somewhere you're using your own thoughts process. And this is what the biggest challenge, not only of a northeastern region but entire country itself. Until and unless you do not put your own thoughts or own views strongly, no one will take you for granted. And that will happen if you start knowing your own history. In fact, without having any kind of parochial vision, you should have a very broad understanding whenever we study this ancient, vast civilization. So that is only message I have. And please go into deep research, especially to the young scholars, because this is the way you have to prove yourself, because we are living in an information age, and this is the only weapon we have in our hands, that is doing insightful research, doing readings and discussions. And through that only we can protect our rich traditions that I was talking about. And yeah, that's it. And I wish all the young scholars, especially young students, my best wishes. And in that way, if anybody wants to be part of this endeavor that I am into right now, bringing out the past, digging out the correct history, you can always connect me. Yeah.
Thank you for those words, ma'am. Honestly, I think there are several practices, several good practices these days in the forms of, say, a Northeastern Day celebrated at institutions, and people trying to socialize with their Northeastern friends to get an idea as to what is it that we've happened to completely ignore for so long. Now, it's an eye-opener, honestly. And the amount, like I earlier also mentioned, the amount of facts and figures and resource that you came up with was mind-boggling. And I'm sure it's going to inspire a lot of us to look into maybe academic resources for research, of course, and definitely to socialize with people around us, representations from the Northeast, to get to know people and culture in a way that is socially possible. Thank you so much. I'm deeply grateful for your resourceful representation, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And thank you once again to the Disha Bharat. Thank you.
Namaskar. Good evening. Well, I'm sure the listeners would have had a mind-boggling experience, and I can't speak of this enough, about the amount of facts that the speaker came to us on several fields, be it social, the cultural, the freedom fight background and such things. It must have been an eye-opener, an inspiration for us to look through a little more deep and ask ourselves if we are ready to get socialized with people from the Northeast more often. I think it's time now to take a look at the programs that will follow for tomorrow. I think the first event will be a talk on social reforms during Swarajya movement. This will be by Dr. Guru Prakash Paswan, an academician author at Patna University. And this will be at the same time tomorrow at 7 p.m. tomorrow. And it's a request to all the viewers to attend this event. And please make sure to share this with people of the common mindset, so that this message of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav from the Disha Bharat's eyesight is spread across like-minded people. Thank you very much for joining us. And this is yet another reminder about the Swarajya Ratha, the one that has been moving around to different places. I think it was recently at Mysore, and it has been reaching out to several important destinations across Karnataka. So this is one, a very new experience for Disha Bharat also as a new event. Well, hoping to see you all, to have you all with us for tomorrow's event. And please make sure to share this event with your, people about the state level essay competition that's been held. And maybe you can spread these posters, take a screenshot of this slide and spread it across the people you know, so that we have more and more participants coming in. Thank you all so much, and let's meet tomorrow at the same time. Good evening.